We finally got to this project. I've been threatening to work on the Ferrari project for, what, maybe 2 or 3 weeks now. Life's gotten a little bit in the way. I started on it. Some things didn't go as planned. Like, I had to pull the studs out of the top of the cylinder heads. I thought that would be a nice and straightforward process. A friend of mine who does these all the time, he goes, "It's going to take you 3 hours." And I went, "Well, I believe you, but I've got to see it myself." So, sure as hell, took me about, I don't know, 2.5 hours, almost 3. That ended up being a little bit of a train wreck. I had a bunch of broken studs. I have some footage that I already filmed on that. Then what else? I bought some new fixturing to mount this up in my mill. I bought a longer bar that'll let me mount this up without any trouble. Got that set up. Started tramming it in. Then heard a weird little noise on the milling machine. Ended up taking it apart. Found out I broke something in a previous possible crash that I may have caused. I'm gonna maintain some plausible deniability here. I'm gonna blame the new guy. So ended up fixing that last night. Now we're finally at the point where I can get this mounted up. The next thing that needs to happen is I need to deburr the top of the head, figure out how I'm going to mount it in my fixture. Then we can go ahead and core drill the valve guides. Then from that point on, we can go ahead, shove new guides in, get them sized, move on to the valve job. You may have seen in a previous short that I had to go through and fix all the valves. Thankfully, nobody had their hands in these heads before, but somebody had already worked on the valves. They weren't done very well. The quality was very poor. I ended up saving most of them. We'll have to jump in the car at some point and drive over to the Ferrari dealer. I've never been there before. I'll have to map quest it, and hopefully I can figure out how to get down. It should be okay. I think there's only like 5 turns to get there. I won't be doing the final assembly here. This is for a machine shop, so they'll be taking care of that, which I'm pretty glad for. I've already spent enough time screwing around with this thing. This is going to be a pretty fun video. I think I'll end up with about 40 minutes of footage. We'll see where we end up. By the time you're watching this, I'm assuming this will be right around Thanksgiving time. I guarantee you that there's nobody else doing a valve job in their own head machining and they're in a 2-car garage. So this will be a little interesting. It's going to turn out very well. I'm really excited to see this all come together. Number 1 step, everything's mostly clean. I've got to clean out all the loose oil inside of the ports, but before I can mount this up in the mill, I've got to take all the cam bearing cap studs out. It's pretty easy generally. I had to use some heat on one of the heads, but a lot of these have broken off. I ended up with 13 broken studs out of 56. The bright side is there's 14 in the country. I only need 13. Lucky me. Oh, and fun fact, I was just going to order a generic stud off of McMaster-Carr. These are 37 cents each from Ferrari. There's replacements on McMaster-Carr. They're about $4 and, I don't know, 60 cents a pop. Guess I'm ordering genuine Ferrari for this thing. The way I'm going to do this is I'm going to put a washer on there, maybe weld a nut. On one of these, I'll probably weld the little man from the famous short video onto him, and we'll see if we can use the little man to remove some studs. Eventually, I'd like to have this thing about 2 feet long, and we'll see if we can remove some broken bolts with that guy. Maybe we'll make a trophy out of him. So I spared you from having to witness me welding some nuts onto some studs. It's about as boring as it gets. But I only welded about half of the nut. That'll give me a chance to spray some penetrating oil down that hole, and it'll drip down the threads. And then on this hole, we're going to try the little man method. So I've got that guy hanging out. That nut is kind of pointless, but maybe we'll weld that onto his foot, and then we'll turn that into something. I don't know. What would you like to see? Maybe we can put him on top of a tank or something to that effect. But this guy is going to become a recurring character here. Will we be so lucky? Ow! Hey, don't touch that. That's hot. Maybe not. Come on. Kind of hard with one hand. Oh. All right. Let's give that a shot. All right. Perfect. 2, 3, 2. Perfect. Okay. Let's try you. Let's try the adjustable. Nope. That's gonna break. Can't break the little man yet. Okay. Some Nip-X pliers. See if we can do that. Nope. I don't think this is a one-handed job, guys. Oh. No good. Let's find my tripod. Perfect. Little man is doing just fine. Might break his leg a little, we'll see. Sure hope you can make it. Oh yeah. Oh, that is beautiful. Lucky me. Look at that little guy. Now he's got a little Italian in him. Oh, back in the pile. Okay, let's get these mounted up in the machine. I'm gonna start making some chips. So here's what my regular head fixture looks like. This is the 2400 bar, which means it's 24 inches across. You end up with a little bit extra room just because the clearance between the bar and the towers. But if you work on inline sixes or anything that happens to be on the longer side, then you have to switch over to a 28-inch bar, which CP Motorworks does sell. I ordered this to work on some Jeep heads, but I never ended up getting around to that. So the first time I'm using this will be on a Ferrari. Good for me. Oh boy, oh boy. You'd never know that I forgot to hit record. It's like it never happened. I just wanted to show off some of those expensive hand tools that I overpaid for, but here we are. Let's pretend that I opened up this package. That's a really nice piece. All handmade in Janesville, Wisconsin. And since I don't pay attention, I already put a ding in it. That means I can park it on the street, not worry about it. So my buddy Pete Graves makes these. They're made in Janesville, Wisconsin. If you're a machine shop, you gotta own this. This is easily one of the best tools that you can ever have. So all I gotta do is loosen up the towers, pull this bar out, and this drops right into place of this bar. Then I'll be able to set the Ferrari heads onto this fixture. The Ferrari is about 27 inches from end to end, and this is 28 inches from end to end here. And since I pulled the studs out, I'll be able to use the cam cap threads to bolt the cylinder heads to the fixture, and most of the time those threads are going to set the head in pretty square. Another thing I'm going to do, since I'm not going to be indicating off of each guide to core drill them, I'm going to indicate the fixture in square to my table, which is something I don't normally do. Most of the time, if I'm just doing a valve job, I'll set the fixture inside of the mill, and then the towers have these little stops. The stops will run up against the slots in your mill table. On my mill table isn't the most accurate in regards to how these slots are machined relative to the ways. So I know if I just set the fixture in without measuring anything, then I'm going to be crooked about 6 thousandths end to end. And since I'm usually indicating on everything, that's really not a big deal to me. So this goes real easy. Loosen those up. Whoops. I'm just going to throw that up there. Caps come off. I'm hoping those towers don't fall over. Are they going to fall? Yep, they're going to fall. Don't do that. Whoa. I'm in a situation here. Stay. Stay. That's gonna be a problem. Let's see if I can set you up right here. There we go. Okay. I'm a professional, remember. Whoa. Come on. Yep. Bracing for catastrophe. There's been no accidents yet. Alright, here we go. Perfect. Even my magnets came from snap off. Focus. Nope, not happening. So even these towers are really nice pieces. They're honed. The caps go on only in one direction, and everything here is very, very well engineered. There's quite a bit of travel built into these towers. I can raise one side up 1.5 inches if I really wanted to, but there's very few situations where I ever want to do that anyways. Since I've never done this before, we're gonna figure this out together. I'd say the best move is going to be set the towers in and just leave everything loose, and I'll be able to use the slots in the table to hold things in a place. I don't have 3 arms, at least not arms I can show on camera. So let's go ahead and try that. See if I can get this fixture put together, and then we'll get on to core drilling the guides. Careful. Okay. I'm going to let the one side just float there since I'm going to indicate the bar in anyways. It's not really going to matter. Just would have been nice for ease of assembly. But that's really it. Okay. Let's get this indicated in. So I just need to sweep this back and forth and adjust the ends around until I end up with the same number on both sides. Then I'll clamp everything down and then I can start machining. And based off of this, I'm a little bit too close towards me on this end, so I'll have to push this backwards or pull the left side toward me. It's a little weird when everything's loose too. Lessons for life. Probably would help if I clamped the towers down. Say my name. Goddamn right. Rule number 1 of machining. If you won't rub your dick on it, it's not deburred enough. Now before the heads can go into the machine, we've got to deburr the top, flat file everything here, make sure that we're not going to be hung up on any burrs. So that's going to make sure that the head sits flat, and then I can trust that when I move from guide to guide for the core drilling, that's going to ensure that I can trust my measurements on my DRO. Because all I'm going to do is I'm going to set up on one guide, then move over based on the bore spacing and the valve spacing, and then just drill out each of the guides. So the first thing I got to do is take a known flat file, like this one. Now that all the studs are out of the top of the head, I just move it across the top and make sure that any little raised edges, like this right here, there's a couple little nicks right there. Make sure that those are knocked off. It's kind of hard to do with one hand, but here we are. Just knocked off that burr, move it right along, and if we catch another burr, like there's one little nick right here, we can make sure that's taken care of. And here we are, a couple more nicks. Just Just do that for every single flat surface that you can find. Okay. Perfect. This won't affect anything. It's just going to make sure that everything's nice and flat. Wipe it off with your hand. Then you got to come in, chamfer every single hole. An alignment dowel goes into these holes. They weren't chamfered, so this is going to help on assembly as well. But any little sharp edge, it's going to be prone to get dinged, and you can end up with a raised edge, and it's just not very nice on the assembly side as well. Lastly, one of the most important details, right here, all the bearing parting lines, you come in with a small carbide burr, and you just run it across the parting lines. That'll deburr the housing bores. That will prevent any raised edge on the bearing surfaces from turning into an oil wiper. And then it's just going to help ensure that when the cams are installed, they'll spin nice and free, won't be hung up on any aluminum. It just makes it a lot easier on the assembly side. This is all a courtesy. It makes the stuff look really good, and it just helps the guy that's going to be putting this together a whole lot. Now, as far as core drilling is concerned, this is an old valve guide. We've got to machine the inside of the valve guide out until the guide itself ends up being really thin. The FERRARI guides are installed with about 3,000 or 4,000 of press fit. That means that they're really difficult to get out, especially without damaging the housing bores. So when you relieve all that pressure by taking all the parent material out, it means that the guides will fall out with just a few taps. On all the intake guides, I tried it from the spring pad side. It ended up going okay, except I still had to tap the guide all the way through the bore. We're going to try something different here. We're going to core drill all the material out from the chamber side, and then that means that I'll only be shoving the press fit portion of the valve guide up through the top of the guide bore, and then we'll be pushing a relieved sleeve through the guide bore, and that's not going to put us at risk for harming the bore. What can happen is we may end up with a small little sleeve that we'll have to take out in case the top of the guide decides to break off. That's not really a big deal. I'll be able to peel out that little sleeve with a pick. That would be the same thing as if I was removing a cylinder liner that I'd cut out with a boring bar. So I'm using my 28-inch bar. Everything's all set up off of a good guide. I got this little drill with a 0 angle. This is going to act like an end mill, and I'll be able to come in and have a nice flat step that I can drive on. This also will prevent the drill from threading into the valve guide and causing any damage. This is working really well. I'm ending up with about a 20 thousandths thick wall after drilling out the valve guide. You end up with a bunch of this gross rat's nest of copper. It's making it kind of difficult. There's no clean chips to that I can vacuum up. It ends up on a pile on the ground. If you're a big brain fool like me, you're not going to stick your little fingers in the into the part. That's how you deglove yourself. Come on. Alright, you're out of the way. Use a little long piece of whatever. I've got my screwdriver here. Once you get really deep in the hole, that's where you're going to get into trouble. You'll damage the sleeve, and you'll end up damaging the parent bore in the head. I don't care how long this takes. The goal is to make sure that I don't damage the head. And it's starting to feel weird, so I'm going to pull this apart, clear the chips. Everything's looking pretty good. We'll come back in. So if you look at the DRO, then you'll see a 7-inch, 718 thousandths. That's my bore spacing every 2 cylinders. So My bore spacing from cylinder to cylinder is 3 inches, 859 thousandths. I think that's about 89 millimeters or 88 millimeters, something along those lines. I'm going to reset it. It's going to show 0. I'll move over 3 inches, 859 thousandths, drill that hole, and then what I'll do is I'll move over from valve to valve. That number is 1 inch, 455 thousandths, and then that's going to get me from here to here, and that's going to be my valve to valve spacing. And then from here I can repeat, move over every other cylinder, and I'll be moving over by bore space, and that's how I'll get through and bore out each of my guides. And then I'll be able to tap the guides out, and we can move on to install, get them sized, and do the valve job. Alright, we're on the last guide. It's going pretty well. I really want to show that I can put my money where my mouth is. At least it looks like I've earned those 22,000 and 15/16 subscribers. I'm disgusted. What even is this? Gross. Well, we can finally get the head pulled out. It's a little bit hard to see. Let's see. Let's try a flashlight. There we go. That's about what it looks like. This one didn't come out so well. That's the one I tried the slower RPM on. It tore a little bit of material out on the inside, so I'll have to... That's going to come out in 2 pieces. I'll have to peel that sleeve out. Letting it chatter actually left a better finish. Let's see if this works better than drilling through the top. Okay, so drilling the guides out from the top was really good. That was amazing. Drilling them out through the chamber side, this is more better. Dude, these things fell right out. It didn't even drag any material, didn't damage anything. I mean, check this out. Normally, you just have to wail on these things. You'll destroy the head, damage the bore, drags material. I think Ferrari, from my understanding, is in this era, they were heating the heads up to like 400 degrees. Then they'd shrink the guides with liquid nitrogen. They'd just shrink fit them in. They'd fall in. Then the differential heating would start to equalize, and that's how they installed the valve guides. Probably the same procedure for the valve seats. And that's great when you're on the manufacturing end. But in the service side, this is a hell of a lot better. Oh my God. These things just fall right out. Check this out. Light taps. I'm only holding the hammer up here. I'm not holding it down here. Look how much stroke I have. I'm just doing this. Out. Even the one that I damaged on removal, I don't know how well we'll pick this up on camera. That fell right out. I didn't damage the bore. It didn't drag any material. This came out perfect. That's it. This is the way. If you're working on a Ferrari, 7/16 drill. core drill the guide from the chamber. Use a manual guide driver. This is undercut to 420 thousandths. The outside diameter of a FERRARI guide is 475. Fits right into place. You're going to drive on a shoulder that you leave machined, so you can't use a drill that has a 45-degree angle or anything to that effect. It has to be flat. So yeah, you could possibly do it with an end mill. The drill I purchased was actually a DeWalt branded piloted drill from sold by DeWalt. I don't know who manufactures them, but they say made in Germany, and they're very rigid, very nice material. That worked perfect. I grabbed it with the collet. They had no run out. This was perfect. Couldn't have asked for this to go any better. Done. Amazing. Now these are actually the same guide. The stock guides have a big taper on the front, so they look a little shorter, but believe me, they were the same length originally. These are guides from SI Valve Guides. They have parts for anything. SI Valves has guides that'll fit any oddball application. They had guides in stock for this FERRARI. They have guides in stock for your first generation Volkswagen Golf. Give them a call, talk to Chris, Steve, Pete. They're all great people. Carlos, the owner there, he's a really great guy. He treats me very well. Very wonderful company to work with. And the best part is they sell to the public. I've got the door open, so lighting's a little weird, but this is what you've got to do. You've got to drive on the valve guide. This shoulder needs to sit inside of that step. So, let's see. Let's use my fat belly. Women love those things, just so you know. That's why you've got to have that undercut on your guide driver. You know, it's just a socket, but this is working perfectly. This lets me get behind the spring pocket. I can drive the flange down onto the shoulder. They need to sit below flush. A little hard to tell, but believe me, that's below flush. If you don't get that right, the spring seat that sits over this is going to be held up on the valve guide. That's going to cause some problems. The nice thing about this feature is it captures the valve guide. I mean, you'll never have one of these come loose, but I mean, if it did come loose, it wouldn't be able to fall up into the head. Maybe I'll tap one in, and then we'll just pretend that you watch me tap in all the guides. I tend to like to do all my tapping in private anyways. Okay. So on install, it's pretty standard. There's nothing really interesting about this. Only differences versus most people's procedures is they probably have the head heated up. I'm not going to do that. In my experience, heating up the heads has increased the likelihood that you'll drag material on the leading edge. A lot of that has to do with the whole prep and prep of the valve guide itself. Most valve guides are going to have a pretty sharp chamfer, but this has got a very, very light taper on the leading edge, so I don't need to do any finish work here. I'm going to put some ARP lube on the bore. I'm going to put just a touch on the leading edge of the valve guide, and I'll be able to tap it down into its home, and then tap it down. Don't swing on it real hard. This isn't a race. Rushing through this is one of those deals that that'll end up costing you 10 grand if you can find a pair of heads. And I'm just willing to bet that no two FERRARI parts are the same. They're not exactly the pinnacle of quality. An obscene amount of lube on the guide. Enough to make the hole wet, and we'll just send it home. Light taps to get her started. That's it. Done. That's how you install valve guides in a Ferrari. Alright, that's the end of the video. I'll see you guys next time. I'm just kidding. What do you think I am, a heathen? Here's a shot of your installed guide. It's covered in lube, but looking pretty good. Pretty dirty. Not so bad. Intakes are a little grosser. Usually you gotta pay me good money to let me get my fingers that wet, but here you go. Beautiful. Then I'll come in and clean all this wet oil off. It'll come out looking pretty good. I've got some special brushes that I shopped around for. They'll fit in here pretty nice, and I'll be able to get these things looking somewhat reasonable. So since I'm a little sharper than the average ape, I feel like I gotta point this out. You should be careful with your Peter beaters. That stuff's sharp, unless you like getting all bloody and whatnot. I mean, some people are into that, but I'm not. Might wear some gloves. It's probably a good idea. It's my PSA for today. At least I'll feel like I've done something good. I should ask if this guy wants his old parts back. Or, I've done this before. Next time someone decides to pick a fight with me, I'll put this in the USPS box and maybe have a little, send it over without a label. Maybe, hey, I sent you a gift. Open up the box, boom, chips everywhere. That's fun. At least I have enough common courtesy to box it all up and make it look like a gift. Don't mess with me. So a lot of things have happened since the last clip. I stopped at about 2 o'clock. Well, it's like 8 p.m. right now, and I still haven't worked on these. So, frustrating. I'm trying to get back in the groove. I've been trying to get my energy back for maybe, the past... 6 hours. Math is hard. I'm struggling here. But I'm going to get there. Because these showed up. Check that out. Let's see. Come on. I've had a lot of coffee. Look at this. Rotiform. Yeah. Cool guy wheels. Oh, come on. Out of the package. Yeah. Just on a side note, we're going to do some race car stuff. Maybe not race car stuff. Daily driver stuff. So, Breakfast of the Champions. I decided not to have dinner, so we got some pretzels, some beaver brand mustard. If you don't eat beaver, you should give it a shot. Except it's ghost pepper mustard. I've had this Rockstar. This is spicy, that's cold, this is room temperature, and this is hot. It's a strange combination, but eventually that's going to kick in. A little bit of a tangent. We're getting off subject here, but we're going to go size these guides. I'm not going to spend too much time doing that on video. I've got plenty of videos where you can watch me for 10 minutes at a time sizing guides. We've got 48 guides. We'll just do 1 or 2, and then we'll jump over to the valve job setup. Still got some chips and some tools to put away. This will get magically clean by the beauty of editing and technology and whatnot. You won't have to see this ever again. What a heathen. But I'm probably going to be in here till midnight. I'm doing this all for you, maybe for me, because I don't want to be out here tomorrow screwing around with that Ferrari. These are for my, this is for one of my newer cars. We got a 2-liter Porsche Macan. Figured that would be a cool little daily driver weekend car. It's kind of fun. It drives like a big rally car. To get the offset right, we got some spacers. I wasn't expecting to get such high quality spacers, but come on. Don't open that box. Let's open this one. Look at that. It's even engraved on the side. I do not deserve you. This is amazing. I'm still in shock. Somebody is going to get some of the nicest VW work out there. Hiding down here is some unobtainium rabbit stuff. We'll do a video on that. It's going to be a very good video, and it's going to come out beautiful, and homeboy will get as much VW stuff as he wants. You need wheels and tires for your car or truck? Wheelpros.com. Want some dope wheels for your import or Euro car? Rotiform. He does custom wheels too. The bright side to this is the valve guide machining is pretty standard. It's basically the same size valve and valve guide as a Toyota. So I have all the tooling to go through and do this very quickly. I'm just going to go ream the guide out close to final and give it about 7 strokes with the hone. That'll get me my final size. It'll feel very nice and smooth, and this thing will last for years and years. Unlike the original build, but hey, I'm not Ferrari. I'm just some dude. Okay, I promise I've regained my composure. It's never gonna happen again. I've gotta maintain some level of professionalism here. Kept forgetting I've got a light. Let's check these guides out. The way I like them. Good and tight. One of the things I'll do is use a pilot to help me check my valve guide sizing. Most people use a straight pilot. A lot of times you can use a tapered pilot, and then I'll just set it in the guide and see where it engages on the taper. We're right at about 1.5 thousandths clearance. Pretty good. I like to flip the head over, turn the pressure down on the hone, and just kiss hone from the other side anyways. It'll tend to straighten out any taper, and then it'll improve the surface finish. This really is the fast part of the job. You know, it's 8 hours to pull all those guides out, but I'm probably going to have under an hour honing all 48 guides. Pretty easy at this point. Standard machine work. This is basically a Toyota at this point. It's happening again. Except my energy levels are getting to be quite low right now, so I don't think I'm going to be as unhinged as I was earlier. I honed the guides in this one. Haven't honed the guides in the other yet, but put it in the solvent tank and started cleaning the ports as best as I could. The exhaust ports still have quite a bit of carbon hanging out in them, but I got all the loose oil off. Then the intake ports, it's kind of hard to see, but I got those fairly clean too. So at least I can work on the one head. I'll hone the guides in the mate to this and get it washed and drying off. It's going to be a long night. Once again, this is going to be one of those 2 a.m. activities. The things I do for you guys. You're so spoiled. You're so lucky to have me. I'm out of caffeine, running out of pretzels. Pretty soon I'll starve to death. What's going on here? I disgust myself. It's hopeless. Getting more and more tired. I'm out of caffeine. I went inside looking for some ice cream. We're out of ice cream. I may as well talk about some technical stuff, so whatever. So here we are. So come on. Out. Okay. Here's something that most people don't even think about. I ordered a set of spark plugs, just enough to do one head. I'm actually going to torque these up into the heads for the valve job because the torque from the spark plug will actually affect the concentricity of the intake and the exhaust seats. You wouldn't think so because these only torque to, I don't know, I think like 12 foot-pounds or maybe even less. This is only a 12 millimeter thread, so probably is even less than that. I'll have to look up the torque spec, but this is really important for the valve job. Is it gonna matter? Did Ferrari do this? They probably did it. These seats were probably cut without the without any torque on the spark plug threads, but we have the chance to make it better. That's gonna make it better. It's getting to be pretty late. This reminds me of when I had my shop. There were many times where I stayed up, worked late, maybe, I'd get in at about 6 a.m., 7 a.m., work the full work day and decide, hey, I'm pretty behind. I've got to get some stuff done. Maybe I needed money, maybe I was behind the gun, behind the ball on some things. Who knows what the scenario was. There were some times where I decided, I'll work into the night. I'll have to do a double shift. Well, working in the night turned into, well, let's keep on going till it's done. It's got to leave in the morning. It's got to do this. It's got to do that. Next thing you know, I'm closing up the shop and it's, 3 or 4 in the morning. Only guy out in the street is myself, and the guy that's staring me down, he's probably out there thinking that he wants to go rob me or something like that. So, we do this little thing. I'd look at him, he'd look at me, nothing would happen. Did that more times than I care to remember, in fact. I didn't like having a shop. It was cool. It was fine. It did its job, but I had a nice cushy job. I only left it because I cared about the people I worked for, and I really didn't like my job because I didn't get along with who I had to work with. That's a pretty common story, isn't it? I had the shop for quite a while. It was good. You know what that did for me? It taught me how to be a better machinist. When you're just an employee, you don't see the whole picture. You tend to make decisions that aren't the best for everybody. So without going out on my own, I never would have been here. Essentially jobless, but I'm pretty happy. So what that means is that I don't have to be out here filming a video for YouTube at 1 a.m. I can go inside. I can go to sleep. That's what I'm gonna do. Staying up just to get a video out, that's insanity. We'll get these torqued up. Maybe I'll come out here Sunday morning and we'll wrap this up. I've got more important things to focus on this weekend. We'll get this put in the machine on Sunday. All we've got to do is cut the seats now. Really, what we've got to work with isn't that bad. It's all gonna be just fine. I'll see you in a couple days. I'm gonna go back home to my family. Thankfully, they're just right on the other side of that wall. Have a good night. Well, I'm a fool. I lied to you. I slept for a couple hours, and here I am again. I just can't help myself. Ask any of my ex-girlfriends. But I'm well rested. As you can see, I don't have that darty eye thing. Hold your finger on your nose and walk in a straight line for me, please. Follow the flashlight. Don't move your head. I definitely failed one of those tests, but right now, no. This is peak performance right here. Let's finish this head up. I've got a couple things to do, but not till lunchtime. As you can tell. 2 hours? It's more than enough. In reality, I'm one of those cursed people. No matter what time I go to sleep, I'm up at 5. No matter what. So I had a sick curiosity last night. Before going to bed, I decided to check runout on some of these seats before cutting the valve job. I just wanted to get an idea of how much this would fight me. Let's make sure that pilot's seated all the way down. This seat wasn't so bad. It was under like 3 thousandths. Yeah, 3 thousandths. Now, this hole. This one was a little concerning. I set a valve in there. It's really sticky, didn't bounce. You could see a whole lot of daylight through the port. I measured that one last night, and I think it measured out at 10 thousandths worth of runout. What that means before the valve job is I'm going to have to cut at least 10 thousandths off of that seat to get it to clean up. Basically 12 thousandths. That one's going to be a problem. I'm going to have to cut at least 12 thousandths off of that one to get it to clean up. Does that mean I should match all the rest of the valve seats? No. Just leave that one deep. Your only other choice is to replace the seat. Also, just a little observation. I don't know how well we're going to pick this up on camera. Some of these seats aren't down all the way. This seat. What else? That seat. There's dog hair in here. There was another one too. Both of these seats, but this one's pretty bad. I'm not going to pull those seats out. It's been fine for 20 years. It'll be fine for another 20. Good old Italian manufacturing. Quality. So we're halfway done. I've cut all the intake seats, so it's time to flip the head around. We're going to cut the exhaust seats now. I don't know that we're going to be able to fit any top or bottom angles in there. The intake seats just barely got a little sliver of a top and bottom, but we'll see what we can do. It's coming out pretty good. For a bit of a simpleton, I gotta say. I'm pretty happy with myself. And for those guys that are saying you can't do high quality work in a Bridgeport, well, import machine, but a Bridgeport nonetheless, you don't know what you're talking about. Because this is phenomenal. Cutter's not cutting the way I want it to, so took a look at the cutting edge and it's a little on the dull side. So I'm gonna give it a quick lap. I already went through and roughed it in, so I'm just gonna do the final polishing here. These are just some cheap diamond laps from Harbor Freight or Amazon. At this point, I'm just doing little figure eights. I'm going to promote some flatness. This isn't a very flat part, but when I switch over to my other laps to get a mirror finish, then it'll start to flatten out the insert. It's a small little shadow at the bottom, but we're not going to be using that much of this tool. The part that's actually going to form our seat is lapped in, and I'm pretty happy with that. There's machines that'll do this for you, but they don't cut the whole face, and they're actually pretty aggressive, so you reduce your tool life pretty significantly by using the machines. Hand lapping is the way to go. People in this industry are all gung-ho about speed. You know, I'm a pretty generous person. I'm going to take my sweet time. I'm not in a rush to get it right. Maybe that's what gets me in trouble. That long-term performance is, that's what's going to win you friends. Just when you think you're about ready to give up, just hang in there. Some people would pay good money to feel that kind of pain. In the meantime, put some ink on the exhaust seat, just to check my seat placement on the valve. You see that little shiny line in the middle of the seat? That's a little groove that got cut into the seat from the chips in the cutter. So by lapping it, sharpening it, we're going to resolve that. But as far as seat placement is concerned, very happy with that. That's it. Spinning that tool at about 800 RPM. Looking good. That stock valve job was just a straight 45. So I've got a little tiny sliver of a top and bottom cut. It's mostly just a top cut. It'll work a little nicer. That's it. All the seats are cut. I'm quite pleased with that. Surprisingly, this easily was one of the most drama-free valve jobs I've ever had to do. Not a single hiccup at all. It's about time I get lucky once in a while. I decided to just cut it here. It's a little bit out of square. I'm just doing a light pass. At 1,000th, it started cutting all the way across. This was just where I touched off. So when we come back the other way, I'll drop it 1,000th. And the head on this side had about 3,000ths of twist. So this should hit all the way across. When I get over to this side, I'll go and make a 2,000ths pass when I go the other direction. These Italian castings are a nice material, but geez, are they porous. Look at that. Interesting. Drop the table 2 thou. I don't think we're going to clean up in this corner, but we'll see. The shop that was working on this did clean the chambers with the wire wheel, and you can see that all the edges are rolled over. So hopefully that doesn't get in the way. We'll see. Looks like this corner is going to clean up. See these little red dots in the deck? It's remnants from the old head gasket. The head gaskets have these beads of red silicone on them. That's how porous these heads are. Crazy. Man, that was a boatload of work. But we're finally almost at the end. Look at that. This material was a little weird. I had to do a bit of playing around and come up with a surface I was happy with. And I sure am happy with that. Nice and slick. Let's cut the other head and call it a day. Then we'll take a trip to Ferrari, pick up those last valves, get them reground, and then we'll call this rebuild done. Came out very good. That's pretty typical for an Italian manufacturer. the two heads aren't the same. One head was a real pain in the butt to cut. This one cuts like any other head. No problem at all. So weird. Ugh. This one was actually warped. I'm not sure why, but the other head was just had a bunch of twist in it and wasn't all that square. But this head was very square, but had a 2/1000 dip right in the middle. Interesting. I mean, 2/1000, that's pretty normal for a casting that's that long, but who knows. Happy Monday morning, YouTube. I'm on my way to the Ferrari dealer. Finally, we're at the end. I got some new cam tower studs to replace the ones that I took out of the heads. It's about an hour drive there and back from the Ferrari dealer, so that'll be a good trip. Thanksgiving's in a couple days. Hopefully you guys will be nice and full and fat from your whatever you're having for Thanksgiving, and I hope you guys have a good time with your families. This is a pretty stressful time of year for everybody. So, you know, hopefully everyone gets a chance to chill out and relax. This project's taken up a lot of resources, a lot of time. I enjoyed doing it. I don't get to work on these too often. I wouldn't mind working on more of it. Hopefully not too many people come out of the woodworks asking for exotic work, because I'm just going to straight up tell them no. But it was a good exercise and good technical machining. Hopefully I've grew 1 or 2 more brain cells by the time this project's worked itself out. It's a pretty nice drive from here to Ferrari, San Francisco, so I'm going to turn this off for a little while, put on some good music. I'll get back with you once I get there. Oh boy. They're going to call the police on me. I thought I said I wanted to listen to good music, but this just speaks to me. Oh, the heathens have come to the neighborhood. Well, I'm lost. I guess I found a couple cool roads. Too bad it's a neighborhood. Because this could be a lot of fun. Oh well. I must be getting close. Just got passed by a 550. Almost there. Almost there. I haven't owned this car for very long, but I gotta say, this thing handles really good for an SUV. Not even just for an SUV, it handles better than a lot of cars. I hate cars, but man, that was kind of fun. There's your sign. Oh boy. Lo and behold, none of them daily drive Ferraris. Well, the Ferrari dealer's a little small. There's no parking on the street. There's no parking in their parking lot. So I'm about a half mile up the road. At least the weather's nice. Maybe I'll stop at the Lotus dealer and see what they got. Yeah, it'd be kind of cool. I'm a big Lotus fan. I'm already fat enough. I could use the exercise. You don't need to shame me. I'll shame myself. You guys are going to have to excuse me with the noise. I'm right next to the freeway here. But we got our intake valve. Lucky me. Woo. $100 a piece. Lucky us. Those guys were totally chill over there. They offered to make me a cup of coffee or some tea. You know, they were pretty cool. They said, hey, you can take a look around, film, do whatever you want, but I don't have the time. It is what it is. Not highly interested in looking at new cars that I can't afford. It was a cool place, though. Turns out that they don't have any parking spots or street parking because they have an automatic garage that's that's supposed to open up as soon as you pull into it, and you literally just pull into the dealership with your car. So I found that kind of cool, but parking lot with extra steps. I'm sure it adds to the whole ownership experience. The car's about to scream at me. That whole rebuild sure wore me out. It wasn't the most complicated thing in the world, but it's just very time consuming, a little on the technical side. But it was a very good exercise in making sure that you're doing your duty as a machinist. 7 years ago, I never would have been able to do this repair. So that was a little bit of a validating moment. I'm finally able to take on those repairs and be comfortable. There is a sense of pride that comes with being able to handle that caliber of a repair. I do feel good about it. It's taken a lot of effort, a lot of heartache to get to this point. I feel pretty good about myself. That's all that matters. All right, everyone. This is it. That is a newly rebuilt set of FERRARI 456 heads. Got new studs in the top. Those new guides look beautiful. Everything's cleaned. These guys are very excited to get these things back. Everything's nicely packed. These are the new valves. Not thrown into a gallon Ziploc. They're inside of an actual valve box. Nicely organized. They're cleaned. Ground, ready to install. Heads are ready to assemble. All that they've got to do is do the valve adjustment, get their valve lash set, put the heads together. They can go back on the car. Intake valves are the same situation, nice and clean. Those are the 4 new intake valves. This was a boatload of work, but a little ingenuity. You can do quite a lot in a 2-car garage. Hopes to have a little bit of cylinder head experience too. We're done here. I had a good time. This is Josh at Engine Rehab. Thanks for coming along for the ride. This was a long one. I'll see you guys next time.